We're starting at a farm just north of Albany in the Willamette Valley. We're here because we wanted to check in on a law that was passed by Oregon lawmakers a year ago that requires time and a half for farm workers working in fields like this. So it's been a year. Let's check in to see how that new law is working out. It's a sweltering day in early July. The temperature is already 85 degrees by 10 a.m. 80 pickers here are quickly and carefully plucking blueberries off branches on a 12-acre farm. Many of these workers are regulars who live in the area and come back year after year to work for the farmer, Annie Kramer Steinkamp. But this year, she expects her workers will make less money than they're used to. She's sending them home after they hit 55 hours for a week, so she doesn't have to pay overtime. And it's obvious to you, but why does it have such a big impact on you? Because I could hear people out in the audience saying, in most other professions, if you work more than 8 hours, you do get time and a half, and businesses just, they plan for that.
Yep. So in ag, we've never had overtime. A lot of people come work ag in the harvest time to pretty much make the butter on top of their biscuit. This is where they make their extra money in the year round that they can take home and spend it on extra stuff or help pay bills, stuff like that. But if we have to sit and we have to limit their hours, they don't get to help make that extra. So.
And is what you're saying is that it's one thing to pay somebody 16 hours at straight time, but you can't pay them 8 hours regular time and then 8 hours time and a half. That extra half is enough to make it unprofitable for you?
Very unprofitable.
I met Annie 2 years ago as the Oregon legislature debated whether to end an exemption more than 80 years old that kept Oregon farm workers from earning overtime after putting in 40 hours a week. Members of the legislature were pushing hard to follow Washington and California in enacting the change. Andrea Salinas, now a U.S. representative in Congress, was a member of the state legislature then and a leading voice.
I don't blame anybody today for setting that system up, but I do take responsibility for changing a system that was rooted in racism.
And the president of Oregon's largest farm workers union said it would help farmers keep good workers.
And not only a matter of equity and dignity and respect, but if we don't implement something, we also fear that people are going to choose to go to Washington or not come back, especially our migrant farm workers who are already saying, hey, I get paid overtime in this other state, and I'm questioning whether I'm going to come back again next year.
The bill passed and is being phased in over 5 years. It also included tax credits for farmers to help them adapt. For the years 2023 and 24, workers must be paid 1.5 times their regular pay for every hour over 55 hours worked in a week. For the year 25 and 26, it goes down to 48 hours, after which time and a half must be paid. And in the year 2027 and all the years that follow, the limit is 40 hours. After that, workers must be paid time and a half. Back in 2022, Annie worried about the impact the law would have on her operation. Her workers are paid by the amount they pick. She said an average picker makes $18 to $20 an hour, and the top make $40 an hour. Now in 2024, she is still worried. Okay. And so how have you been dealing with that?
We've pretty much been working our workers till the 55 hours, and then we send them home. So we've brought in extra people to help keep the hours down. We schedule days off throughout the week, and then me and my husband have been picking up the extra slack.
What's that like?
So it's a lot of work. I woke up at 3:30 this morning, and I probably will take phone calls till about 9 o'clock tonight.
Let's drill down so you can get a feel for income and outgo that farmers like Annie are dealing with and why the overtime bill makes them so nervous. On Annie's farm, she told me the cost to grow a pound of blueberries is around 50 to 60 cents. The cost to pick, pack, and ship that pound is about $1. Annie sells the berries to wholesalers and gets on average $2 a pound. That leaves her 40 cents a pound for supplies and expenses and savings for next year. To avoid overtime, Annie brings in extra workers now, so more people are getting paid, but she said her regular workers are actually now making less money.
It has gotten a little bit harder now that we have to cut people, so the guys don't like it. A lot of these guys are used to working, 60 to 80 hours in the summertime, because that's what we've been doing for years and years, and that's where they make that gravy on top of the biscuit, and now they don't get that. So,
Has it been hard to find the extra workers?
it's been hard to find like Pacific workers like that can do forklifts, drive machines, truck drivers, that kind of thing. Just regular manual labor, we haven't had problems with that.
Okay.
So
Oregon's not the only place experiencing that. This article from the Sacramento Bee pointed out that California farm workers were also getting less pay after an overtime law was passed there as well. I checked in with Picayune, that's Oregon's largest farm labor union. Their policy and advocacy director says it's too soon to tell how many farm workers are earning less because of the new law. I think what you're saying is you're not convinced really that it's happening on a wide scale?
That's correct. We're not convinced that farm workers are being impacted in a negative way across the state. But I think there's a lot of different experiences and a lot of different decisions and factors at play. But at the end of the day, I think it's too early to tell on our end.
But a spokesperson for the Oregon Farm Bureau says farms and ranches across the state are all doing what they can to avoid paying that overtime.
I would say they're probably paying as little overtime as possible because they don't have an ability to recover those costs. However, some are bringing in additional workers. Some are just lowering their productivity and deciding not to grow certain labor-intensive crops. Others are mechanizing. I've heard from quite a few operations that they have invested in machines that can do that work and actually have resulted in significant cost savings.
Which brings us back to Annie, who says farmers are not avoiding overtime because they're mean. They simply cannot afford it.
I think they picture it as more of a manufacturing where they can raise their prices and take in that overtime cost, but they forget that farmers are a price taker. So our fresh price changes every week.
And you mean the price that you're being offered by the people who are going to buy your berries?
For my fruit changes every week.
And you don't have any control over
And
that?
I have no control on the say of it.
And it has a direct impact on your profit?
Yes. So.
Yeah. So you can't just add that onto the price of your product?
Nope, I cannot. I can't say, hey, I need more money because I'm gonna have to pay overtime. And they're gonna laugh at me and say, nope, this is what we're offering.
Wow. But it seems like you would have parity with all the other growers in Oregon. So those people that are buying the berries.
And I don't think they're paying overtime either.
Yeah.
So.
You think farmers?
I talked to a bunch of growers throughout the year, and there was a little bit of overtime in the spray season, a little bit of main guys in the summertime, and that's about it.
Well, I'm Evan Watson in for Pat tonight. He's still feeling under the weather, but we'd both like to know, what do you think about Oregon's farm worker overtime law? Do you think it will lead to less money for workers as farmers like Annie avoid paying overtime? Or do you think that's just the lay of the land now and things will sort of even out as the threshold for overtime gets lower and lower in the years to come? Email the story at kgw.com or call and leave a voicemail 503-226-5090.